Hello, and welcome to Better Money with the MAIAs, where we speak to the latest winners of the Money Awareness and Inclusion Awards to find out how they're helping other people to become better with money and perhaps learn some useful tips for ourselves too. With 2/3 of the world's population unable to answer very basic questions about money and finance becoming more complex all the time, we need as much help as we can get. I'm Michael Gilmore, co-founder of the MAIAs, and that's exactly why we started the awards. In this episode, I'm speaking with the winner of the Best Adult Financial Education Project, and that's Project Ikuna from New Zealand with Candy Elsmore and Tafā Iakopo. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Better Money with the MAIAs. This week, I'm incredibly happy to be joined by Candy and Tafā from Project Ikuna all the way from Auckland. As you see, it's very sunny behind them right now. They were the winners this year of the best non-profit project for adult aged recipients. An incredible project called Project Ikuna, as I mentioned earlier on. And before they speak, I'm going to say what I always like to say on this podcast, which the reason we do this, one of the reasons, is so we can actually say congratulations to the winners, because you've done an amazing job. We love meeting the people that win these things, and I love hearing from them. So congratulations, well done for your amazing work.
Thank you. Well, yeah, great. Yeah. Thanks for having us.
It's our pleasure. And I know you were very talkative earlier on, and now you stopped being talkative. So I'm going to ask you.
Sure.
Tell me about Project Ikuna. How did that come about? How did it all start? I want to get that real details of what it's aimed at doing and how that came about.
Sure. Well, Project Ikuna, or Kia ora, is firstly, which means hello in Māori. Project Ikuna started out as a government-funded initiative funded by the Ministry of Business Innovation and Employment in Aotearoa, New Zealand, under a scheme called Alovaka, the Auckland Pacific Skills Shift, and it was designed to benefit Pacific peoples in work. You may not know, but Pacific people make up a substantial part of the population in Aotearoa, New Zealand. About 8.9% of our population is Pasifika. And in Tāmaki Makaurau, Auckland, which is the biggest city in Aotearoa, there are about 275,000 Pacific people, people of Pacific descent, Pasifika. So Project Ikuna aims to lift the economic prosperity of Pasifika people in Tāmaki Makaurau, and we have it is one of 3 partners in Alovaka that are trying to do this in a variety of different ways. But the organisation I work for, Tātaki Auckland Unlimited, is doing that through the workforce and through a range of micro-credentials that are delivered in the workplace, highly accessible during work time for people that may have come to, who are in foundational entry-level jobs, whose jobs are under threat potentially from technology change or social and economic change. And a big part of that is financial literacy, obviously.
Yeah. That's very good. I mean, because that's something actually we very rarely touch on is jobs being under threat. We leave school, in our teens maybe, and to be able to predict what will be a relevant job 40 years later and how to manage money in that environment. And that's how that came about. It was really addressing that problem.
Yeah, addressing that gap and that need. Yeah, particularly in Tāmaki, in Auckland. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it is such a Pasifika, what would you say? Has a significant population.
I think the research has shown with Pasifika people, we're actually the fastest growing in Auckland, and this is the future of Auckland. So you need to, and unfortunately, we also have the lowest financial capability. So if you want to upskill your people, and that's the future, then we need to start now, and get them upskilled, not only in financial literacy, but there's lots of but that's a start. Yeah, all the life skills, because we want a ready workforce in the years to come, and this is what it looks like according to the data.
Yeah, wonderful. And Tafā, you mentioned other courses there. I mean, did you? I mean, I think from what we mentioned before, you were developing and teaching the course. One of the things I always love to find out about is like the iterations you went through, like the changes you had to make sure, because money can be a bit of a dry subject. You bring out a textbook and it's all blah, right? Meaningless words. And you've got to put that into context for the people you're talking to. How did that process come for Project Ikuna?
Okay, well, I'm going to do a shout out to Tina from Education Unlimited, because this is her baby, Money Confidence. And what we've found is, because it's aimed at Pasifika people, our people, like you mentioned earlier, Michael, that they need to see, oh my gosh, this is somebody who looks like me, who talks like me, who understands what I'm going through. And so what we did to really give it an authentic Pasifika lens is we've used models. Now, there's a whanofale model, and that actually embraces, it's a model which is very similar to the Māori te whare Tafā, yes, te whare Tafā. And what it does is it looks at, this is your foundation being your family. Because in Polynesia, your family is your foundation, it's your everything, the pose that supports your house. And if this is actually a well-being model, but we've embraced it with financial literacy, with everything that we have, and it's made a world of a difference. And
That's fascinating. Can you break that out a little bit more? I really want to know. So you have like the building blocks that you give to people, are things that they already know and understand in their lives.
Yeah, so the whale, a house, a hut, like the huts. You picture, I think the closest to you probably think Hawaii. No, is you've got the whale. So the whale, the roof represents the culture. The foundation is your family, and you've got the four poles, which is the pillars, which is your culture, the spirituality, the mental. And there's an other. And what you do is you weave this in and think, okay, how are we going to embrace what you look at every day, and how are you going to apply it to how you handle finances? And because we've done it in a way, because we know our people, and and it's able, and it's worked so well because we've had feedback. We run this course and it's different. I don't think you will get anything. It's so unique because we start every session with a prayer. We call it a lotu or karakia. And in our culture, that's important. You start everything off with a prayer. So you start with a prayer and you end with a prayer. And it just invites, and it's actually what we do, and it's also called Māori whanaungatanga. And whanaungatanga is making a connection. So what we do, before we go straight into the hard money talk, we say, okay, let's just make a connection with our learners. They're comfortable. We've created this nice, safe space. And at the end of the course, you've got people wanting to share their credit score with you. And we're trying to say, oh, no, hold back. But that's because we've created such a safe environment, and money is almost taboo. You don't talk about that. It's not it's very different from a white perspective where everyone knows about investments and, what to do, where we don't know. We don't talk about money.
It's interesting you say that, because everyone thinks that everyone else has got it sorted. So one of the other winners, I'd love you to take a look at this. You might find it interesting. So one of the other winners this year for the best book, there's a book called Money on Your Mind by a lady called Vicky Renal, based in London. And the reason I'm mentioning this to you is she's a financial psychotherapist. I think she's created that space. But the reason she's doing this is she said that she talks to other psychotherapists. And of course, you're a psychotherapist, nothing is taboo, right? They can talk about their relationships, talk about sex, talk about death. They will not talk about money, other psychotherapists.
Wow.
When the moment money comes up, they go, well, that's not for me. And they push it to one side. And if the person's got money issues, and they can't actually explain them to the psychotherapist, probably because the psychotherapist has money worries and money issues. They can't explain that. So it's something that it's so important for all of us is to be in that place. I look at it very often as when you were in a maths class as a kid and you couldn't understand an equation, and the teacher stood opposite you and told you, and didn't understand. But if a teacher came around behind you and sat next to you and showed you them doing it, you could sort of understand this. When someone comes to your side of the table, they're on your side,
Right.
and you sit with them, and you can all of a sudden do much harder things. So I think that makes perfect sense to me that you do that. And this is a question I love getting into as well, because I love hearing about when you see your beneficiaries starting to click, because I often think that's like, there's something, and it's different for everyone. There's like some they'll think, oh, that's okay, this is how this works. Where do you see that most often in, I'm going to mispronounce it again, Project Ikuna? Is that right?
Let's go Project Ikuna. Yes.
Okay.
Oh, heaps of aha moments. Where do I start? Okay. I guess it's the small changes, even things as simple as needs and wants. I'll give you an example. We had a lady who came in and thought, oh, I want to learn about investments. And I said, oh, sorry, wrong project. This is foundational learning. But what she found out, because she wasn't tracking her spending, they were spending $1,000 a week on food.
Wow.
And we're like, what? How? I didn't. And another thing that we do is we say, look, there's no judgment here. Like I say, creating that safe space. So we don't say, and I was thinking, I'm just curious, how do you spend $1,000? She was buying specials. If you think you're making a saving, it's really smart marketing there. Oh, you'll save this much. So she's been doing that. That's a lifestyle habit. There's 5 incomes coming through. So it's so easy to spend $1,000 on savings. And I wanted to tell her, well, actually, you're eating your investment. So what I did instead was, if you go $1,000 multiplied by 52 weeks, that's 52K, right?
Wow.
I said, what if you just half that? Now, I don't want to tell you what to do, but imagine if you half that, that's 26K that you're putting back. There's your investment right there. And you know what? That was a massive aha moment for this lady who thought she was going to come in and learn about investments. So simple. Tracking your spending.
Yeah,
I love that. And it is so, and tracking spending is so vital, because sometimes people talk about budgeting because they don't want to talk about tracking. But there's actually an academic text about the budget fallacy, which we all say, oh, how much are you going to spend this month? Oh, I'm only going to spend, $500 on this. And so, how much do you end up spending? You spend $1,000, right? And the next month you say, but this month I'm really only going to spend 500, and you spend 1,000. And until you actually track it and know exactly where it goes, can you say, well, I didn't need that. I'd rather not have spent that money. I'd rather that money gone to investments. So yeah, that's very powerful, right? Just get them tracking. Okay, another aha moment. You said you had lots. I love these.
Okay. Okay, let me see. A compound interest.
Oh, yeah.
For example.
Yeah.
People didn't understand that.
Yeah. A lot of them, it's really sad though, because you talk, they go, you mean you can make money from savings? And unfortunately, a lot of our learners only understood interest when it comes to debt.
Yeah, sure.
I said, well, just imagine you borrow this money, and if you don't pay it on time, all the repercussions. And they thought, oh, you mean we can make money from? Because then showing them, just giving them examples. There's lots of website links that we would, show them. But that was an aha moment for one lady who'd been paying $200 a week of a debt. And she's been doing that for a few years. And so it's money she didn't miss. So the moment, and we didn't tell her to do this, the moment she finished paying the debt off, that $200 that was allocated to her debt was now going into savings. And she was sharing the story of everybody. Goes, look at the compound interest I'm going to make, And she did not to touch it, because in her mind, I haven't touched it for the last 4 years. There's nothing different, but this time I'm going to be making money out of it. So that to me, very powerful.
It's something I've seen. I've seen it in examples in the US, that the people going from debt to high savings for exactly that reason. They've learned how to cut back on their spending to pay off the debt. And so they don't miss it, so they flow it straight through. It's very, very powerful.
And then
I'd like to hit.
I was going to say, you were talking about needs and wants. Yeah, and how I know that's part of the course too. I haven't seen the impact of it as much as you have, but being able to think about, well, what does this mean if I get this? What's the opportunity cost?
Yeah.
100%.
That's very. You went through. I'm not going to try and pronounce the word for house. Sorry. Fala, did you say? Was that right?
It's a model. Yeah,
that's a model. So you were doing. And that's the sort of the cultural consideration. But were there any other, like, really sort of specific considerations that you had to kind of go through to because of who your target audience was? I mean, I think particularly I'm thinking of because you're approaching people in work. There's a lot of focus in financial literacy on schools because kids are in schools. We know where they are. Adults are much harder to reach because they're not all in one place. So what sort of considerations did you have to go through to make this program work for them?
Well, accessibility, I think, mainly. And that's really part of the whole model. So it's delivered in work time. So people don't have to take time off work. It is delivered in the workplace. And the really, really cool thing about it is some of our providers will go into workplaces whatever day of the time of day or night. So maybe between 12 and midnight, if that's what required to reach those people on midnight on the night shift, they will work with the employers to say, right, well, when can we deliver it for the time that it benefits your people? And those people would probably never get training that wasn't related to their on-the-job work, operating machinery or things like that, or site safety or that sort of thing. And also because they are at a foundational level, often that investment is not there in those people for things like, financial literacy, because it's not absolutely core to their work. So that's made it incredibly accessible. I think that people do realise that they're being invested in, and this learning is for them and their families, because we know it's taken home. We've heard that, and the change that it makes in the households. So I think that's what makes it really unique, and the feedback from that has just been immense. It's just been, people see that value once they learn more, once they see that they're being empowered to make positive changes in their lives through the sharing of knowledge. It's also delivered face to face, and that's really important in Pasifika and Māori culture. That is, where you're learning, and it's also in peer groups, which again is one of those things that works really well. You're learning with your fellow workers. Your fellow workers are like you; they're not like somebody else. And also, it's delivered. It doesn't require your own technology, or because we know that the digital divide is a bit greater in some families than others. So it doesn't mean that you've got to use internet or have your own device or anything like that. So it's face to face, and it's in small bite-sized chunks, so that you can apply it to whatever your circumstances are, and come back next week and build on that knowledge. So over a series of weeks, they're quite short courses.
And so the same sort of program, the same teachers are going into the same sort of work locations every week, and they're sort of at the same times or at different times, and you can go back in and get that same.
So we call it workplace facilitation, right? So we will go in after we've talked to the employer, and there's shift work, and I'm sure shift work it's everywhere. People work 24/7 these days, and so we find like Candy mentioned, the night shift is always neglected, and we've had one of our tutors who will go at 10 to 2 in the morning because our 4-hour sessions, crazy times. Yeah. But what they get, the value, the ROI is the people who are learning, they feel valued. So it actually, not only are they getting, they're learning how to save, they're learning how to spend properly, but their loyalty to the company that is value. I would say the benefits has a ripple effect, because not only are they feel empowered, they take it home, the community's empowered, and they think, wow, this company's actually investing in me. And the underlying thing is everybody gains confidence from this little, we talk about money, but then they now are empowered to actually, I can ask that, or I can negotiate with my bank. I've been paying this amount for my interest. Maybe I can go under, I can negotiate. Because, can we do that? I go, don't accept it.
Or start thinking, even, most people, a lot of people think that home ownership is completely a way, just something that they will never, ever get. One of our micro-credentials is around preparing for home ownership. Another one is preparing for retirement. So, again, people don't even think about that, or they think it's just out of reach, or it's for somebody else, not them. And we have seen people buy their own homes, which you can only imagine how life-changing that is for them and the generations that come after them. Because maybe they're the first people that have ever done that in their families. So,
in Auckland as well, one of the world's most expensive property markets.
Yes.
Totally, yeah. Because people thought that was something that only you could do, but there's so many different ways that you can unlock special funds. Like, if you've got KiwiSaver, some of the investment, not so much in the and now, but in the past of the government's first home start kind of things, but also just the sheer knowledge that you don't have to buy it by yourself. You could buy it with a consortium of people, like your brothers and sisters or your whānau, your family. It doesn't have to be just you. And then when people start thinking like that, they problem solve and they apply it to their own situations. And that does mean, we know that family members have bought their own houses through this. So because
we've seen it.
So
that's wonderful. That is
just amazing.
That is so powerful. I want to come back a little bit because I'm intrigued as to how did you immediately go to the face-to-face route, knowing that would be the only way that worked? Yeah. So you've never tried the let's make a video, let's make an app, or all that kind of stuff and see it not work just because you knew it wouldn't right from the start.
Yeah, really, no. I think, it's all about, like we said, when it's face-to-face, that's where you can build the relations, right? It's all about connection. Whakawhanaungatanga is what we call it.
And
actually people see, not many people have access to devices too, and if they do, they wouldn't, if it was an option, they wouldn't click on an app and watch it.
No.
But, if
they did, they'd get a notification halfway through for something, something else more interesting that they'd click and they go do that, right?
I've done online learning myself and it is quite hard to focus and it is something you put off.
It is.
But, when you're fully involved in the moment, you've got your peers around you, you're in your workplace, you're dealing with someone who you trust and you can answer questions to. You can't ask questions to a screen,
share stories from the other peers.
Or make those connections that are personal and also support each other and give each other feedback because a lot of, some of the there are sharing moments in the courses and they just happen anyway. And then maybe talk about it at the break room. It's a shared experience as well. So, it's different online.
And the great thing about it is they share their learnings with others who haven't come on the course. They say, well, you've missed out on a great opportunity.
And the employers go, can you do this with these people?
That's wonderful. Yeah. That is so good. And it is so good because you talk about, it's one of those things that you can't measure, the confidence that you give to people, but that's the all-important component, right? If you can make people confident of handling money, they can then move on to other money subjects on their own and do things that you might not expect, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Or even asking for help, which is what one of the sisters, we had sisters, and this lady never made eye contact, would come in the room and her head was always down. And at the end, it's a 8-week course because it's 2 hours each week. And at the end of the course, she was introducing herself, welcoming people. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this girl didn't say boo in the beginning. And the employer's, his feedback was, well, she doesn't use her sister anymore. She comes directly to me and tells me what's wrong with her machine. I thought, man, that's amazing. Nothing to do with money. But, it's that underlying confidence.
Yes, 100%. 100%.
Yeah, often leads into leadership as well. And that means more prosperity, if people are stepping up through the ranks more because they're feeling more confident, being more outgoing. It just leads to more prosperity, I guess.
I'd love this. Now I'm going to tell you that I've got the question coming up. It sounds like one of those trick interview questions, which is, I want you to tell me about mistakes that you've made. Now, this isn't because we're trying to trip you up. It's actually because the whole nature of the MAIAs is what we want to do is we want to share best practice. And one of the ways we all arrive at best practice is not best practice, and we improve it and get to somewhere better. So I'd love to hear from you, Tafā, about maybe something like you've been doing at one point and you've looked at it and gone, that's not working quite so well. Why is that not working? How have you looked at it? How have you solved that problem? And what's been the solution?
Okay, for me personally, and then I know I speak for a lot of the people too. In my travels, I used to, we would purchase it on the credit card. You know, think, oh, yeah, this is so easy. Oh, let's just put it on the card, and we'll get everything else on the card, and then and you just pay back minimum. You know, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, if I look at it now, that would have been 3 extra trips if I was to look at all the interest that I've paid, and which leads on to another. A learner who used to think that every time she'll go back home to the islands, she needs to get a loan because that's all she knew how to do. And the success story with her is that she goes, well, I know now if I know I'm going to go next year, I start saving now. I say, oh, yeah, she gets it. Plan in advance. It's so easy to save, right? But because life happens and, you know, your savings get frittered here and there. But for her, she goes, I didn't realise it. I don't have to get a loan every time I go home. I just
that's
save.
wonderful. That is wonderful. Yeah, and in terms of like the projects, where do you see like the biggest thing that you think is like an innovation from Project Ikuna? Like you know, when you looked around the rest of the world and you were devising it or looking at other, what's the thing that you think you've done differently, better than what you saw?
I thought lots about this myself because I've looked at, in terms of the content of the courses, there's nothing magic there. It's all, it has
Sorry, Tafā. Sorry, Tafā, yeah.
No, but wait for it. Wait.
No. I mean, there is obviously an approach which was quite useful and unique to us. But in terms of teaching people about compound interest and, basic, needs and wants and savings and budgeting and all those sorts of things, they're nothing earth-shattering in all of themselves. What makes us really, really successful is the fact that we have people like Tafā, who has amazing skills at connecting with people and teaching, and the model itself, where it is, as I said, highly accessible and really relevant to people, and it comes to them, not the other way around. So, they can engage if they start work at midnight, and they can engage them in this. If they, it's face to face. It's question and answers, that exchange of knowledge and information that you would never get in a online model or a truly academic kind of situation. And that's the other thing too. I think that our learners are often they don't have the prerequisites that you might need to get formal education. Maybe they have had a poor experience of education through schooling, and they've disengaged from learning. But when it becomes part of the fabric of their everyday life, and it becomes it's fun and it's interesting and it comes to them and it's engaging, and people like Tafā teach from a perspective that is completely understanding where those people are at, that they understands the cultural drivers and the pushes and the pulls and all of those things that shape people's behaviour around money. That's the most important thing. I don't know that it's the model and the delivery and the accessibility. It's probably not so much the content, because you could find content in on an online. It just wouldn't land, the way that these have really shaped people. Yeah,
I'm going to take a slight tangent here as well. It's just occurred to me because I totally that's exactly perfect, and what I thought, and what obviously I've read your submission to the MAIAs quite a bit too, and that's what occurred to me as well. But one of the things I wondered is, are you saying, Tafā, because what you're doing is very community based and with a very specific community. And one of the things we've seen globally, if we using technology, we see sort of community-focused influencers talking about money. Is that something you're seeing emerge, among the Pasifika community? Are there people out there? Are they good? Are they bad? I mean, what have you seen?
What have I seen out in the community in terms of finance?
Yeah, or sort of like online, like say, are there TikTok influencers talking about money who are specifically in Auckland talking to Pasifika? Or is that not come through yet? Is that not there for you?
You're probably asking the wrong person in that sense, because I'm a dinosaur. I'm a dinosaur, and I don't even have a TikTok account.
Good, well done.
But I guess I can't really answer that in that sense. But in the community, yes, there's more and more talks. I mean, I attend a local church, a Samoan church, and we bought when COVID hit and we couldn't go to the workplaces, we had to
Yeah.
pivot. And so I thought we had to do this online. And I thought, well, we used our church members. We used a certain group who were working, young. And if I was to go back to these, and there are a couple of people who've had really life-changing, it's let's just say that it's changed their lives in the sense that they now look at money. And I took one lady in particular, I won't say her name, or actually I'll say her name, Unia Severe. She took the concepts, like I said, basic concepts, and since doing the course, her family have travelled overseas 4 times in the span of 2 years, which is something they'll never do. You're probably thinking, oh, is that all? But actually, it's massive because they've been to the States twice.
Wow.
They've been to the islands. And, if you go to Samoa, you need to take $1 million with you because the whole village is there waiting to welcome you, open arms and empty pockets. No, just kidding. But saying that, so for her, that's humongous that she's been able to do that. They've also got on the side, their ultimate goal is to buy a house. And I know with what she's learnt, she's actually the first person I know who's actually gotten rid of all her the afterpay apps.
Yeah.
Those apps you pay now, buy now, pay later. Those schemes. A lot of people don't see that. I go, well, if you're really serious about home ownership, you need to get rid of that, or you won't.
Yeah.
You just say goodbye to your dream.
Those apps are very big here. I don't know what they're like overseas, but people
everywhere.
are slaves to.
Yeah.
Everywhere. Yeah. And let's not go there. I'll get angry.
Yes.
That's really wonderful. I love hearing about that. One of the questions I suppose I have with Project Ikuna as well, though, is where do you go from here? Because it's also personal and in the thing. And I think scale is an overused word, and maybe you don't need to. Maybe you can carry on doing what you do. But are you able to grow this? What's the next level for this? You're going to take it to the islands? You're going to take it to the rest of New Zealand? What's the goal?
Well, yes, there is. We would love to do those things, and it's just funding, as it is with everything. I think even in Tamaki and Auckland, there's still a big unmet pool of need. We've had to turn, since the middle of, probably about this time last year, we've had to turn people away because the pipeline to delivery is so full. And sometimes people have done 1 or 2 and they want to do more. But also there's loads and loads of employers that we just had to say sorry to. So I think, yes, we would like to do more if we can, and that would be locally. But there are significant populations of Pasifika people throughout New Zealand, and there are also these types of micro credentials would work better and would work in different settings as well. So with iwi, potentially Māori organisations, with government organisations, and anywhere where the key is anywhere where foundational study can make a difference. I think that or foundational work skills can or skills development can make a difference. I think there's a emerging, well, it's probably already always been there, but it's getting bigger, I think, at the moment, need around work readiness. So being able to be that bridge between school and then into the workplace. We've tried that and piloted that in a couple of different ways through Ikuna, where people have been engaged in work-ready scenarios or transition to work scenarios. And they work really well embedded as part of to make a holistic kind of program. So, for example, you might be learning your forklift license, your site safe license. You might be learning some of those foundational hard skills, but building financial literacy and a bit of digital literacy alongside it makes then a really compelling program to boost people into particular areas of work.
That's
good
very good.
Work readiness. Yeah.
And this is a very technical question, but at the moment, is it all funded by the government? And so do the workplace not pay at all? And has there been an attempt to talk to They don't, because it's
No,
something that
they
we've
don't.
seen I'm seeing increasingly in the UK, or maybe not increasingly at the moment, maybe pulling back a little bit, but these sort of ideas of workplace well-being, teaching also financial well-being in
Yes.
the
Yeah,
workplace.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
and
think
being
it's
paid for
probably
by
what it is. Yeah.
yeah, by being paid for by the companies, because as you
Yeah.
said earlier on, the employees are more loyal, they're more engaged, they're happier, they're more confident, they become better
Turn up for
employees all
work.
around.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
is there been potential? Have you looked at potentially, getting employers
Yeah.
to sort of co-pay with the government or to
Yes.
subsidise
In
or
fact,
something?
I just did a study
Okay, good.
around a price elasticity study to see how much people would pay. Did that quite recently as employers. And it is nowhere near the value of the what it costs to deliver the micro credentials. It's
Yeah,
also in a pretty I imagine it's the same in lots of places across the world, but at the moment in Aotearoa, New Zealand, we've got a lot of economic challenges, a lot of
yeah,
challenges around workplace stability, company stability,
yeah,
cost of living, etc. So at the moment, I think that willingness to, or ability for most companies to pay is quite low. Also,
okay,
I think, and this is really, I guess, where Project Ikuna has been. Perhaps it is an innovation. Well, it is an innovation. As I said before, I think a lot of people engaged in at foundation level don't get a lot of money invested in them.
yeah,
So you probably know what it's like when you are in a workplace. It's usually management or people that are, that get on those courses or go overseas for a conference or things like that. They're the people that get the
yeah,
investment made and not people
yeah,
that are at a foundational level. So, I think there's probably a push and a pull there. There's that aspect to it, and there's the aspect that times are tough in business.
yeah.
We see a lot of companies falling over, as I'm sure they do in many other countries. So,
I'm looking,
there's
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I'm looking forward to times not being tough. It's got to happen sometime soon,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
It feels
right.
like a
Just
long
around
time
the
we've been
corner,
saying this.
just around the corner.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
been a
and
while,
I think
hasn't it?
also
Okay,
this was a program that came out of which was part of the government's reaction to COVID-19. So it was one
yeah,
of those
okay,
rebuilding projects.
okay.
Yeah, but
Well,
it has
that's very good.
continued beyond that.
Very,
So
very good.
yeah, yeah,
So I've got one last question, but it's two last questions, and it's money tips, but they're slightly different because normally if someone asks you like want a tip about money, you're going to tell them, okay, well, you should save this or you should budget this or whatever. That's the direct, and I'd love to hear your tip about money that you would give to just a friend who asks you about their money. But the different one for us, because we're the MAIAs, we talk to people who talk to other people about money. I think there's times when people come to you and say, look, I need to talk to my kid about money, or I need to talk to my kid's school about money, or I've got a friend who's got an issue or something like that. What advice do you give them? And what would be the best advice you can give to someone? Or just let's say you want to talk to all the people out there in the world who are working on financial literacy and you want to say to them, you could do this better if you do this. What would be your advice to them? So two tips from both of you. So that's four answers. The direct money tip and then the financial literacy teaching tip.
okay. Direct money.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. A direct money tip. And I used to do this in another far back in another thing that I used to do, working with creative entrepreneurs actually. And you'd be surprised because I think people think that people who are entrepreneurial have got it all sussed, like you said, but they don't. Because the interesting thing about human beings, in my experience, is that everybody brings a different relationship to money, and it's shaped by all of the factors that you have grown up with, and what happened in your house when you were yay high, what your parents taught you or didn't teach you, what you saw around you, how much money you were given, did you earn it? Anyway, you bring all of those things. Everyone has a personal relationship with money, and honestly, I have told people in the past, sit down, and this will be hard. So maybe pour yourself a drink or take a moment and be really honest about what your habits are with money, good and bad, because once you write those down and you confront them and look at them, then you can take those and you are empowered to make changes to those, whatever they might be. You can research that, but yeah, you've got to confront it first.
I 100% agree. That's very, very good.
That's sort of my
That's
thing.
very, very good.
And I mean, I've done that myself, and I'm like, oh yeah. And if you're not honest with yourself, then you're not going to be very well placed to make changes. Yeah.
No,
So
it's very, and it's actually it's something that people don't know, but we use writing for this for a very specific reason. And I love the fact you said write it down, because if you don't write it down, you don't see it. And the thing is, humans are very good at stories, as we can tell stories and we can remember stories, but we can't remember and process numbers very well in our head, most of us. And it's so true. The first ever writing on the planet was accountancy. It was literally, the first writing that's ever been found was in a clay tablet, and it says, this guy owes this guy this much wheat. First writing ever found in Sumeria. And it's because we can't handle it. But it's we can reverse that back on ourselves and say, okay, I'm having problems with money, write it down. Look at it. Write it down and get it out on
I think
paper.
also examine your habits.
Yeah.
So, do I blow it all on the first day I get paid? Do I spend too much on clothing? Am I just a slave to midnight shopping on the internet, or, all of those things? And just say, okay, well, maybe that's not the best way to do it. What can I do to change that? That would be my first tip there. And I guess the second tip you were asking about how we might advise others. So I would urge people to make sure that how you engage with people that you are working with, and educating or helping them learn, that it is a culturally comfortable and safe place. So it's got to be safe for them, not about you, about them. And if you're not the right person to do it, like me, then you ask amazing people like Tafā to do it.
Yeah,
because
100%.
she knows. I can only bring myself to the table, and it'll be the wrong table if they're not people like me.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't brought up. I don't walk in that culture. I don't walk in those in those ways. So
I always term it as: do you want to teach or do you want people to learn? If you want to teach, go and teach a subject. But if you want people to learn, you've got to understand what enables them to learn, and it's very often seeing people like themselves. Tafā, come on, your tips.
Yeah. Okay, I'll try and keep mine very simple, and I'll base it because this is what I've got 3 children, and unlike us Samoans, we've been talking money since they were yay high. So, they physically, any money they get, they save. And trying to teach them, is it a need or is it a want? As simple as that. And with money, they get money gifted to them. They take it to the bank and save. And I'll tell you quickly a funny story. When my son and my nephew were growing, and when they were little kids, my dad said, "Oh my gosh, this is so funny. Your sister was a little bit upset." And what happened is, I gave them each $20, and my son goes to Josh, his cousin, and goes, "Hey, let's spend your money because I have to save mine." And the innocent children, my dad thought it was hilarious. My sister was actually quite offended because she goes, "What? She's just like his mother." And I said, "Well," and then my dad had to say, "Well," he had to step in and say, "Well, no. Elijah knows that all his money he gets, he has to save it." And so they see it, accumulating. And so I thought, no, I put that away. So I thought, oh, okay. But, right from the start, from the get-go, you've got to create that. Now that they're older, I get them to set smart goals. Okay, cool. You want to go to America? How much? So I have a daughter who knows how to plan it out. Okay, this is how much it's going to cost me. This is how much, do all those steps. So this will be $10,000. How do I break that into manageable bite size? Okay, how long will it take? $10,000 into 10 months. And break it down into manageable bite size. And once again, it's that writing it down. I think, okay, this is my list.
My plan.
That's my first tip. And what was the other one? I'm teaching.
About how you would teach others. Or advise others that are teaching.
Who are teaching.
Yeah. Okay. I had this written down. Of course, it's gone now. But very similar to what Candy said, though. You've got to, empathy. Put yourself in their shoes. And because at Upskills, we're very learner-centered. So it's all about, you've got to cater to your audience. And at the moment, our audience, See here, one of the biggest tips we try and ask them, once again, believe it or not, it's that, is it a need or is it a want? And then we have to show them, because what does that look like?
Yeah, examples.
Examples, like real life examples, and a lot of our learners are visual, which is why we have a lot of our activities are either, and our learning
Because you
is
use a lot of hand-on activities, don't you?
lots.
Yeah.
Like we have the group discussions, the peer peer work, but also hands-on. Let's build that whare. What does your whare look like? Explain it. Okay, you make extra money. Where's that going? What is your side hustle? All of that stuff. Fun activities, and you might think, oh my gosh, these are poker games, or or actually, like drinking games, but the relevance is they're learning, they're having fun, and it sticks.
Yeah.
And you have people that say,
experiential,
yeah.
That's brilliant. I absolutely love that. Thank you so much. I'm gonna let you get on with the rest of your afternoon. In a beautiful Auckland day, by the looks of it. I always thought you were supposed to have like 4 seasons a day. You just seem to have non-stop summer today.
No.
It's absolutely perfect.
Several months of the year we have non-stop rain.
So thank you so much. I mean, I want to say thank you so much for joining me today, but also thanks so much for entering the MAIAs and taking time with us. And congratulations again. I mean, we're such a worthy winner. We were so happy to have you winning the MAIAs this year.
Thank you.
Look, we want to thank you because it's hard to get recognition for your work. So when we saw the opportunity, in fact, Tafā's Upskills, who Tafā works for, they brought it to our attention. So it's great we're both talking to you today. And then we sort of worked on it together and then put the application in because we could see the value in it. And so what an amazing opportunity. And I know that it's completely driven by you, Michael. So thank you so much.
It's not. Believe me, there's a couple of other people that do an enormous amount of work that don't like getting in front of the camera. Just yesterday we were having that conversation. It was yesterday was our 3rd birthday, and there was we made a little birthday video, and I was like, "Can one of you be in that video instead of my picture again?" No, it's you again. But no, seriously, thank you so much. I absolutely love that conversation. You're doing amazing work, and I hope other people around the world will learn from it as well. Thank you.
Awesome. You were open to all funding as well. Thank you, Michael.
Cool.
Best closing line ever. Thank you.